With that, we'll move to public hearings. First one is 675 Cedar. It's a request for a use permit to allow an addition which increases the gross floor area ratio of an existing home by greater than 50% per section 12230B1 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Laura, please.
Thank you and good evening. The subject site is on Cedar Avenue near the corner of Keynes Avenue. The lot is 5,865 square feet. It's currently developed with a split-level home and a two-car tandem garage. The applicant is proposing to add 1,659 square feet for a total floor area of 2,790 square feet. That corresponds to a floor area ratio of 0.51, which is beneath the floor area ratio threshold. So the entitlement tonight is just for greater than 50% expansion. The project does comply with all other development standards in the municipal code. The addition would be located to the rear of the existing home. The applicant has indicated to staff that the ceiling heights, the design, and the window placement were all specifically designed to accommodate an artist's studio. So two artists actually reside in the home, and the space was designed to help accommodate that practice that they have. Although the addition would remain at one story, it would be slightly more visible on the left-hand side. The site does have some cross slope. So on the right side, it has that appearance of a customary one-story home. On the left side, because of the cross slope, it is a little bit taller than we often see. And so staff did work with the applicant, both on the roof lines as well as the window designs, to try to help integrate that addition into the existing home. So the plans that are in front of you today reflect a couple of different revisions that the applicant has made to try to incorporate that addition into the existing house. The exterior materials and colors would match the existing that are on the house today. The project was reviewed at the July Architectural Review Committee meeting. At that time, the committee members made a couple of minor recommendations, and staff asked for just a couple of clarifications on the plan. They did make the change of the Architectural Review Committee recommended, and that was to add a back door, basically from the media room to provide access to the rear yard. Staff sent a courtesy notice and the required legal notice. We received one written comment today, and that has been provided to the Planning Commission today on paper. It's available as well here in the room for any members of the public that might wish to access it. The public comments were related to two of the standard conditions of approval. So just as confirmation for the Planning Commission and for members of the public, the first question was in regards to the curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And city staff does do an inspection of the curb, gutter, and sidewalk to ensure that this condition of approval is met. So the authority over this condition rests actually with our engineering staff, or development review engineer, or with our public works and engineering inspectors. And so they're the ones that oversee this condition, but they are required to meet the condition before the building permit can be finalized. The second comment from the member of the public was in regards to the tree planting requirement. The city does have a strong preference for planting the street tree instead of paying the in lieu fee. So the member of the public wished to express that preference for planting the tree instead of just paying the fee, and that is the city's standard policy. There are some cases when there's a conflict in terms of the design or perhaps utilities where the payment of the fee is made instead. But that is somewhat rare. The authority over this condition rests with our Parks and Recreation staff, and planning works with them, and we do not final those building permits until that tree has been planted or it's been taken care of. And so those were the two comments that were provided by the member of the public, and we do have procedures in place to ensure that those things take place. I would also like to note one new condition, and that's number 10. The remainder of the conditions on this project are all standard conditions of approval. And so with number 10 is related to FAA notification. And recently, the county has adopted a new airport land use compatibility plan. And so there's been one in place for quite some time. That's a standard requirement. But with the adoption of the newest one, staff has become aware of an FAA notification process. So for smaller projects such as this, we would not expect that notification process to result in any changes to the design. So we consider it, our sense is that for a small project like this, it's not too significant and should not impact the design or anything that would affect the discretionary review that you're considering tonight. As I mentioned, the rest of the conditions of approval are standard for this project. Staff does find that it meets the residential design guidelines and it's in compliance with all of our development standards, and again is only before you because of the 50% expansion. So staff would recommend approval of the project based on findings of fact 1 through 7 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 26, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson?
On finding of fact number 7 on page number 6, it says that any proposed single-family or two-family dwelling conforms to the basic design principles. I have this preference that when a member of the public or the applicant reads this, that they're able to understand it readily and that it'd be grammatically correct. This is not a sentence, it's a fragment of a sentence. But the real problem, I believe, is that the beginning says that any proposed single-family or two-family dwelling conforms. That's stilted and gives me the feeling that it's extracted from another document. And I wondered if there would be any problem with changing it to the application for this proposed dwelling reasonably conforms to the basic design principles of residential design guidelines. Would that be acceptable?
This language is from the municipal code.
Right.
So I think from a staff perspective, even if the language perhaps could be improved, I think we would prefer to stay with the language that is within the municipal code as we make the legal findings. But as you know, we're undertaking the zoning code update at this time, and so that would certainly be something we could look at to improve the language at the time of the zoning code update.
Well, this makes it unclear as to whether it's a single family or a two-family dwelling, and gives the appearance that the analysis that was made for wording the finding did not include careful reference to the application.
Perhaps then we could make the change to the staff analysis that follows number 7, the legal finding. We could update our staff analysis of that to reflect that.
I don't think that addresses the problem of lack of clarity and ready understanding by the public. Is there a legal requirement that this language be exactly as it's set forth?
Vice Chair Peterson, I would agree with our senior planner that it would be preferred to stay with the language from the municipal code. We can certainly look at revising that as we update our code. As far as our language here that indicates that the particular project conforms with this finding, I do think that that's a good location to provide the clarification that you're looking for, because it seems to me that you want to make sure that the applicant and that the attendees here tonight and those viewing really have a clear understanding that this particular project does conform in certain ways with this required finding. So if we need to modify our staff language, we could certainly do that and could incorporate your suggestion.
Well, part of your staff language is the way number 7 is, the boldface is written.
Well, as I said, this can be modified readily. The staff analysis can be. So if you wouldn't mind repeating what you have in mind, we could certainly take your language into consideration and modify our staff language.
Okay, well, first of all, let's see if we agree that this is not a sentence.
Well, in terms of number 7, the bolded portion,
Right.
we wouldn't disagree with you. We agree with you to start with.
So what I'm recommending is that you say that this application for a proposed single-family dwelling, I was going to say reasonably conforms to the basic design principles of the residential design guidelines and so on.
We could certainly incorporate that in the unbolded staff analysis language below number 7. We'd be happy to do that.
You're missing my point. My point is that the bolded material, even if it's made into a sentence, is so vague as to appear not to recognize that there is a specific application under consideration. And the characteristics of that application are that it's a single-family dwelling.
We're not necessarily disagreeing with you in terms of that language that's bolded. We can look at updating that in terms of our municipal code. We'd be happy to do that. But in terms of this particular item before you tonight, we can take the language you're suggesting and put that directly into the staff analysis below.
So are you saying that the city attorney has determined and instructed you to use this specific bold language?
All we're simply saying is that it's directly from the municipal code. It's our practice to use that language. If we're going to modify it, we should probably go through a formal modification process. I don't think we're disagreeing with you. It's just in terms of timing. We're hearing what you say. We'd be happy to take that under advisement and modify this language as needed. No problem with that. But for tonight, we can certainly take your language and put it under the staff analysis, blend that in, incorporate that in. And I think the clarity, the clarification you're looking for this particular application would be achieved.
I wouldn't be opposed to having a citation of what the municipal code section is, right in that bold-faced language. My point is that it's vague and misleading the way it's stated. And I think part of the objective is to have the findings of fact be understandable and directly related to the project. And I'll drop it with that. I can see you're fixed on this language. I'll just close by saying I think it's vague and misleading.
And we heard you, and we'll come back at a future date with suggested modification. And if you and the commission so direct in terms of the staff analysis, we'd be happy to take your comments into consideration and modify the staff analysis tonight.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Actually, through the chair.
Yes.
Question for Laura. For the comment we received regarding the 36-inch box, could you just explain to the public when this fee is collected and when it's refunded, once the tree is planted?
When the applicant comes in to pull their building permit for a project such as this, a discretionary application, at that time when they pay their permit fees, they also pay a deposit for the tree planting. And so they actually pay what could be considered kind of like the in lieu fee at the time of the building permit issuance. At the end of the project is typically when the tree is planted, and that's in coordination with our parks staff. Once the tree has been planted and our park staff sign off on it, then that tree deposit is refunded back to the applicant at the end of the project. And so only in that case that we discussed, if there was a conflict such as utilities or a physical constraint, would the project applicant not plant the tree, and then that fee would be kept and put into the in lieu fee replacement, the tree replacement fund.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you like to step to the podium? Give us your name and tell us a little bit about your project, please. No, right over to the podium. Thank you. And if you give us your name and give us a little description of your
Hi,
project.
my name is Andrew, and I'm the homeowner of 675 Cedar. The reason of the extension is my dad he's our artist, and he lived with me, and he is, you know, he have a lot of paintings that require a higher ceiling for him to paint. That's the reason why we submit for this project. And also, like, I did talk to my next door neighbors, you know, the two next to me, and I did ask them if they have any questions. As I know they don't have any questions other than the who's paying for the, you know, if the house is, if the construction start, who's paying for the cleaning the roof, and we work it out already. So.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you mind stepping back to the podium? We have a question from the commission. Oh, are there any questions? No?
Through the chair.
Please.
I'd like to compliment you on your energy and working with your neighbors. It's a great thing, and be a pleasure to the commission if all the applicants would do that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Please.
Mr. Lai, have you read all the conditions of approval? Have you read the conditions of approval on the project?
Me and my architect, we both read it. So.
Okay, and you're in agreement with them?
Yes.
You have no questions or?
No.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak? One last chance? Okay. We'll move it back to the commission for conversation, vote, motion.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Chase.
I don't hear any questions. I'll make a motion that we approve use permit 13-005 based on findings of fact 1 through 7, subject to conditions of approval 1 through 6 to include the comments Vice Chair Peterson made on number 7.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
One. I oppose.
Okay. So, I believe it passes 3-1. And there's a 10-day appeal period.
So, a question on that approval. So that means that number 7 was approved with the comments that Commissioner Peterson made. I would like to have a reading of what that change was.
Okay.
That was the reason for my no vote.
In terms of your vote, if that's the reason, you know, we'd be happy to provide that information to you, and that might, you know, change your position on the matter.
Personally, I agree with the statement that's here. I have no problems with it.
Oh, okay.
So I was rejecting the revision to that language.
My interpretation of the discussion of the motion was to add a statement at the beginning of the finding to read, the application for the proposed single-family dwelling reasonably conforms to the basic design principles of the residential design guidelines. I would then go on to include the remainder of the language with the specifics and finding of fact number 7, staff analysis.
But that does not change the boldened language?
Correct.
Then I'll change my vote to a yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, 4-0. And the item is approved, and there's a 10-day appeal period.
Thank you.
Congratulations. 5-1. I'm sorry. Sorry, Kate.
That's okay.